Gamers are mad, and I mean in both sense of the words. The first one, gamers are angry at Overwatch 2. Overwatch 2 just cannot seem to catch a break. The user score is 1.4 on Metacritic, which, if you don't understand what numbers are, that's not very good. Pretty much for understandable reasons. Overwatch 2 story missions were mostly cut. The progression and the hero mode was completely cut, and then they said story missions are going to be $15. They really can't catch a break here. The developers get dunked on constantly. I feel like it's maybe a lot of the big wigs at the top's decisions to do these things, but man, people are mad about this. The most recent thing that they decided to do is, and this is a funny one, this is actually kind of funny. This is a little bit of a ridiculous one. They decided to release the ages of all of the heroes, which was a really strange thing for them to do. Because in releasing the ages for all of the heroes, they managed to contradict a lot of the inbuilt lore of the series for no reason. You don't actually have to say how old a character is in any series. You can just leave it ambiguous. It's not like people are chomping at the bit to know how old every main tab protagonist is. Like, tell me how old Zelda is. I need to know how old Link is. And then they released this, and people immediately started dunking on it because it doesn't actually make any sense. A lot of it doesn't make any sense. The main thing being the Kiriko, which is this character here, is said to be 21 years old, and Hanzo, which is the bow guy, is 40 years old, and Genji is 37 years old, according to the company. I think they changed this to 28, but it doesn't really make any sense because Kiriko supposedly grew up with Genji and Hanzo. And this picture is part of the lore where they grew up and they trained together. So Kiriko here, who is apparently 21 right now, is training with Hanzo and Genji, who are both either 37 or 28. So a 7-year difference. I could maybe see a 7-year difference. I think that one's Genji. But Hanzo over here would be 19 years older, and they still look like children. Like, Hanzo here is still shorter than the instructor, the teacher here. So Hanzo's supposed to be like maybe 15 or something like that? So they just made themselves a problem out of nowhere. It's very strange. Like, look right here. Hanzo does not look super old. Very much shorter than the adult. And I just have to wonder why did they even do this? I think it's a silly thing to get super mad at. It's just ridiculous that they've done yet another thing to get dunked on for. And for example, like, there's a 16-year-old here, a 16-year-old human, or sorry, an 18-year-old human. Which, how are you joining Overwatch at 18 years old? Are they just letting anyone that is like of the legal age join? Like, oh, you want to join this really important organization that goes into battle constantly? You just turned 18. All right, in you come. Get onto the line of battle. There is this robot thing that is 14, but I also think that this is just a robot. I don't think this is actually human. Although I will say it's been a while since I played Overwatch. I'm not sure about the newer characters. I will say I do love it that there is a 16-year-old hamster. That is the oldest hamster that I've ever seen in my entire life. I've never seen a hamster that old. It's probably a genetically engineered hamster so they can live longer. But man, that's a really old hamster. The problem is, I like Overwatch a lot. I used to really love playing the games. But man, they just keep catching L's. And the problem is this. Overwatch, and to an extension, Activision and Blizzard, and also, relevant to this conversation, Twitch, both of these companies have made so many mistakes. They are now almost irredeemable in the eyes of the consumers, in which everything that they do will either be a massive L or, like, kind of cool, I guess. But you can't get above the kind of cool into the, that was really amazing that you did that, guys. It's either you make a slight mistake, it's a massive L, you're going to get dunked on forever, or you make a good positive change that is kind of good. Because all of their goodwill that the community had for them has gone completely out the window, and there is none left. Same with Twitch, same with Blizzard. They have no goodwill left whatsoever. This is actually a good point as well. How is Mercy 39 and not in her 50s? Because she was around at the start of Overwatch. So how is she 39? Isn't she supposed to be older than 39? Again, I don't understand why they even put out these numbers. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't change the law. It doesn't gain them anything. All it does is have people pointing like, wait, that's dumb. That actually doesn't make sense. Why? That doesn't make sense with your law that you made. All the Overwatch players have to cling on to now is the law. Because the game has barely changed. There's no hero mode. You're going to get story missions for $15 and you're going to like it. All they have is the lore. And the lore is pretty cool. It's kind of interesting. And now they just randomly started messing with that and making it a little weird and not make sense. But that is gamers being mad in the rage sense. But here is gamers being mad in the insane sense. I found this tweet and it just makes no sense to me. I need to break it down a little bit. Here's the final list of conservative core games, chosen mostly good by you guys. Leave your thoughts below. I think it's pretty self-explanatory that most game developers are mostly liberal or like lean towards the center or the left a little bit. There's not that many right-wing video game developers. Where did this come from? This doesn't make any sense. This is insane. Fallout 3? BioShock? Let me just analyze this a bit. This is not essential conservative media. I don't understand how you could play BioShock, a game that is all about the weaknesses of objectivism and a critique of the entire thing, play through the entire game, go into the city that is a libertarian heaven, fight your way through it to the end, and come to the conclusion that actually Andrew Ryan was right. He made a utopia. He was right the entire time. The whole thing is making fun of that entire concept. I don't know how you could possibly come to that conclusion. I don't understand. Now, some of these, I guess, could make sense if we're talking about like conservatism as in the Twitter conservatism, which is hating, minorities and screaming whenever they say pronouns in video games. Then I guess maybe Call of Duty 4 might fit because it's like American military propaganda. Sure, that's fine, I guess. God of War is a really interesting take because God of War is all about shaking up and destroying the current pantheon of elitists and people with the most power, going up and slaughtering all of them so that you can not even replace it. It's just to kill them because you're angry. I don't understand. It's as pretty much anti-conservative as you could get. It's not, what is it conserving? It is conserving nothing. It is killing the elites and destroying them. That's rocking it to its core. That's changing everything. What is Warhammer 40k Space Marine doing in here? Do people look at 40k and they're like, oh yeah, that's not satire? The entire point of 40k is that it's satire that is making fun of right-wing politics, fascism, all of that stuff. The Imperium is just as bad as everybody else in the 40k universe. The humans that live under the fascist imperial world have the worst possible lives that they could. It is awful. It is grinding. They turn people into mindless, brainless robots that are sentient just to the point where they can perform tasks like lifting a box. They'll they'll lobotomize you so that they can make you into slaves. There is nothing conservative about 40k. It is literally built as satire to make fun of the whole idea of like right-wing politics and right-wing government. In Warhammer, everyone is evil and there is constant war and it is shitty and it is horrible. It does not glorify it for even a single second. It is always horrible. It's literally called Grimdark for a reason. Fire Emblem Three Houses is here, which is interesting because in Fire Emblem Three Houses, you can do such conservative things as be a gay person with pink hair, which I guess conservatives are woke now. I don't know. I don't understand that. You got Warhammer Darktide here. Zelda, for some reason. I'm not sure what that's all about. Skyrim is a really interesting choice because in Skyrim, one of the main plot points is these ultra-nationalist, racist officials are rebelling against the colonialists, which I guess kind of they're both right-wing. The Imperials and the ultra-nationalist Stormcloaks are kind of both right-wing because some of them are like, oh, Skyrim for the Nords. And the other ones are like, oh no, we have to do colonialism because otherwise the terrible other race will come and slaughter you all. Which, whether or not they're going to do that is, they might, who knows. But it essentially points out how bad both of these things are, how it's done harm to Skyrim, and how they are both bad. I don't know what you could even argue for this one. I don't understand. I think James Bond fits in here. Like, it's the stereotypical suave suave man who's gonna get the girl, and he's gonna solve the mystery because I'm a secret agent and I can handle it all, baby. I guess that could kind of belong there. Fallout 3 also doesn't fit in here because it shows how hyper-militaristic societies that fight over fossil fuels eventually destroy themselves and leave the planet a barren wasteland. It'll be interesting. They probably wouldn't have destroyed themselves if they stopped fighting over all the oil. Maybe if they weren't using oil anymore, they wouldn't have destroyed the world. But maybe that's too woke. And wait, hold on. Isn't Killzone about fighting against a fascist militaristic society, but I also think in Killzone, the aliens, the Hellgas that you're fighting against were also like oppressed by humans. So maybe both of those sides are also right wing. I don't understand why most of these are on here. I mean, if I get anything wrong, you know, feel free to let me know. It just seems like this is just a really, really dumb list of games that they've not actually played. Or even if they have played, they just don't have enough media literacy to actually understand what the message here is. And then again, they might be the same type of people that made this list who are actually like, actually, fascism is left-wing and it's actually not right-wing at all. But anyway, if you're woke, play Starfield, I guess.